I know you think this is Pastor Brian, but it really isn't. I'm Petronius, and I'm a stone-cold killer. I was a soldier in Judea, and it wasn't so long ago that I heard one of our veteran soldiers telling me about something that occurred in the year of my birth, 33 years before. In that year, King Herod was frightened because he heard this prophecy that there would be a new king who would be born in Bethlehem. He was scared to death, and we knew it. We knew that he was frightened. He said, "To me and my cohort," said the veteran, "I want you to go into Bethlehem, and I want you to end the lives of all the little boys 2 years or younger. I don't want any upstart king taking over my job," said Herod. It was horrible for us to think about, but we had our orders. So, me and my cohort, we went to the city of David. This is where they were taking an account of all of the people. A census was taken. We took our swords and we began to end the lives of all boys 2 years of age, 1 year of age. Even children in the mother's wombs, we ended the mother's lives as well as those children. There was one woman, she was a midwife. She didn't realize what we were all about. But as we asked her, we said, "So are there any other boy children that you're aware of?" She said, "Oh yeah, there's one. There's one that was born not so long ago. There was no place for them to stay, so I brought them to a barn. It was a cave where we had sheep and goats, etc. And they gave birth. There was a man, Joseph was his name, I remember, because he was here for the census of the line and lineage of David. His wife, of course, and when they gave birth to this child, they laid him in a manger. It was a cattle trough. There was no other place for this little one. His name, I recall it was Yeshua, that's it. You all call him Jesus. And as I recall, Joseph, he had a dream. And in the dream, an angel of the Lord spoke to him and said, run for your life. You are in great danger. And he, the mother, and the child, they have fled to Egypt. You'll never find them. They left quite a while ago. As I think about it, that boy grew up to be the Prince of Peace. I grew up the same year as he was born to be a stone-cold killer. The next time I heard about him was 33 years later. I was wearing a new helmet then. I was serving in Judea, in Jerusalem, and I was a centurion. We commanded as centurions 100 soldiers at a time. That's what I oversaw. And as I oversaw them, I realized we were the ones who were controlling the whole world of the day. When you think about it, that was the era we called the Pax Romana. Pax Romana! 200 years without any wars. Can you imagine? 200 years. But it was at the point of my sword that we kept the peace. We kept the peace because I was the one who would make sure anybody who is rebellious, anybody who is slandering, anybody who is doing anything wrong, we would send them right there. The rebels went to the cross. If you ever came to Rome, you would know it for sure, because down the main road of Rome, on either side for an entire mile, can you imagine? There were what you probably would think were telephone poles, but they were crosses. And on every one of those crosses for an entire mile were dying individuals who had been rebellious. There were decaying bodies. The place stenched. It smelled so bad. You knew when you came into Rome that there's no matter what, if you rebelled in any way, you would be led by the sword to the cross. Your life would be ended. However, as I came and met with Pontius Pilate, Pontius Pilate was my leader. He commanded me, he commanded my men to come and join him. As he came, he showed me this man, Yeshua, Jesus. I couldn't believe it. I had heard Jesus speaking in the courtyard of the temple. This was a man of peace, hands down, no question about it. He said, I understood, I heard him say it. If somebody slaps you on their left cheek, turn the other cheek. If somebody's giving you a hard time, pray for those. Pray for your enemies. Do good for those who do wrong for you. And now Jesus was standing here in front of Pontius Pilate, and Pilate was saying, everybody is saying that he is the king of the Jews. I will stomp him out. Take him to the cross. We had no choice. We had our orders. We dragged him practically. After being scourged, whipped, he could hardly stand. He definitely couldn't carry his own cross all the way. But we took him to Golgotha, the place of the skull. We laid his cross down and laid his body on top of it. And then with hammers, we smashed the nails into his hands and into his ankles. We hung him up on the cross. We hung him high. And there we waited. Most people, when they died on a cross, it took 2 days, 3 days. That was the pain. It's the most heinous form of execution ever discovered. They would hang and they would suffer, and the elements and the animals that would consume them alive, but not Jesus. He died within a few hours. But I was amazed. I had heard him before, but here as he was dying on the cross, I heard him saying, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. It touched me. And then when he died, he said, Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. As he died, the skies turned black. The clouds rolled in. The earth began to shake. It was an earthquake. I couldn't believe it. It was then that I knelt down and I said those words. I said, surely this was the Son of God. Petronius. I said those words. It was then that my heart began to change from being a killer into a peacemaker. I think that's when it all started. I started believing. On the third day, women went to the tomb. They went to anoint his body, and as they did so, there was an angel, a messenger of God, who said, why do you look for the living among the dead? Jesus Christ is not here. Jesus Christ is risen today. Go tell the disciples, tell everyone. 500 people at one time had actually now seen Jesus risen from the dead. Some people said, I don't think he was really dead. But I tell you, I'm the one who killed him. I know when somebody is dead, he was dead. And now he was alive. I gave my life to him. I turned my life over to him. I thought to myself, I'm 33 years of old age. He was 33. It's time for me to retire. It's past my time to retire. I had a good pension from the Army, and I gave it up. I said, from now on, I turn in my commission. I will now be commissioned to Jesus, my new King, my new Lord. He's the one I'm going to follow. And from now on, I will be a peacemaker, a bridge builder from now on. I wasn't the only one. There were other centurions who did the same. Cornelius, one of my buddies, his servant became ill. He went to Jesus and said, he went to Peter and said, Peter, would you heal my servant? He is ill. He's not here, but I know that you can do it. And Peter, in the name of Jesus, healed his servant. And then Cornelius was telling me about another centurion we both know who was handcuffed to St. Paul for months. Can you imagine? If you know Paul, he got an earful for sure. An earful of good news, no doubt. As I turned it all over, and began to follow Christ in my retirement. Instead of a killer, a peacemaker, I joined a church. What an eye-opener was that. I joined a church. I thought it was hard holding together 100 soldiers as I did being a centurion. These men who are complaining all the time, men who were fighting and arguing. Now I was in a church. It was worse than my group of 100. No wonder in your bulletin I see the emphasis of peace and unity. You guys need to develop that, every church. I know what it's like. The first time I came into the church, it was different. I came in and it was like, my, how they love one another. These people listen to each other. They care about each other. How awesome. I've never been in a group of people like this before. But over time, things changed a little bit. I know that your pastor has said that this place is a spiritual hospital. People who come here are used to gossiping. They're used to hurting each other. They're used to pushing each other around and forcing their power upon others. I know your pastor has said, if you come here, eventually your nose is going to be bent out of shape. If you come here long enough, somebody's going to step on your toe and you're going to be upset. How come? Because these people, everybody here, for years and years, we've been used to doing it that way, pushing our power around and making our will seem like it's God's will. But instead, learning how to follow Jesus, that is the key. I've noticed that in every single room in your church, there's a placard that looks like this. Have you seen it before? I hope you have. The placard says this: blessed are the peacemakers. If there is conflict, you go to the person in private and discuss the problem for the purpose of reconciliation. Talk about a peacemaker. Won't you say it with me? Let's read it together. No, you read it together. If there is conflict, you go to the person in private and discuss the problem for the purpose of reconciliation. When you think about those words, Jesus can be summarized up in these two: go and tell. Now you folks, when you hear something, when somebody hurts you, you go and tell everybody else, don't you? You don't go to the person, as Jesus said. You tell everybody else what a rat that person is and how you'd like to do them in. Well, Jesus, his commandment was to go to the person. I think out of all the commands that Jesus ever gave, this command is the one we most abuse and neglect. We don't even think about it. Some church bodies are more destructive than a legion of Roman soldiers. I thought we were destructive. Gossip, undermining one another, is by far more destructive. People talk about others. Sometimes when you're talking, you're not sure if it's gossip, do you? But you know if they're gossiping about you, whether it's gossip or not, don't you? Well, did you know that Jesus had several brothers and sisters? His brother James was the leader of the church in Jerusalem. And this is what his brother wrote: a word out of your mouth may seem of no account, but it can accomplish nearly anything or destroy it. Or destroy it. Gossip. Gossip occurs when we share information about another person, whether it's true or not, but we share it for the purpose of undermining them. It might lift us up, make us feel good. It says in the Bible, it says that using the tongue, the sin of the tongue, it can kill people. Did you realize that? When you undermine someone, when you say something about another person, Jesus says you actually killed their spirit. You are a murderer in that sense. Now, in the Bible, it talks about two forms, two sins of the tongue. The first is slander. Now, think about slander. Slander is when you talk to the person face to face, or they know about it. You tell the whole world all about this dirty rat, and you take a stand and you let that person know that you're the one committing the slander. You're the one who's sharing the bad news about them. It's a lot like using a sword. You're looking somebody in the eye and you take the sword and you stab them through the heart. That's slander. But the other is worse. Gossip. The other is worse. Gossip. It's like somebody walking away from you, and you pick up a spear. You hide in the bushes. They don't hear you. They don't see you. They're walking away from you, and you pick up that spear, and you throw it right at them, and they get stabbed in the back. They didn't even know who did it. They didn't even understand that it was coming their way. Slander, gossip. They both are killers either way. You know, when my soldiers, my 100 soldiers, began to crab and complain about one another, I knew we had problems because we had to work as a unified group to fight off the enemy. So if we weren't united, we would fall apart. So if I heard gossip any time about one of our soldiers, the first thing I would do, and I encourage you to do the same, is to say something good about the person they're gossiping about. I'd say, yeah, you're right. None of us are perfect. But if there's anybody I'd want to be in combat with, it's him. He's got your back. I can depend on him no matter what. I would say something good about the person being gossiped about. They got the point. Then when I was in a church, same kind of stuff happened, but I would say to a person, I say, so, can I quote you on that, what you said about that person? Do you mind if I say I got it from you? Yeah, sure. They wouldn't allow that. They got the point. Shut it up. Knock it off. In the Bible, James, the brother of Jesus, he says this, the tongue reveals our heart. Whatever you say, it was first in your mind. It was in your heart. What you say about other people, the tongue reveals it. The words that we say point to something deeper going on in our lives. James says, with the tongue we praise our Lord, and with it we curse men who have been made in God's likeness and image. Here we are in worship. Everlasting, everlasting, you are God, you are so awesome, we love you, you're awesome, wondrous creation. We're praising God, His name, and then we walk out those doors and someone cuts us off in the car, in the parking lot. We start cussing under our breath. We start telling other people what a dirty rat they are. We have just been praising God about His creation. And then fellow creations, human beings who are made in His likeness and image, we're sticking it to Him. James says, what kind of nonsense is that? Out of the same mouth comes praise and then cursing? My friends, this should not be. We all wrestle with this. Each day, you and I have a choice between life and death, between breathing life into our other people or dumping death down their throats. You need to be an example, my friends. You, every single one of us. We need to be an example of peacemaking. We are peacemakers. In my day, we saw graffiti like this on the screen. Look at that. I know the emperor had a big nose, but look at that, the mocking. This is actual image from my day and age. People mocking, graffiti. It's slander and gossip. Here's another image. This is an exact image that you would find in my city of Rome. Underneath it, it says, the emperor's wife, Lucilia, made money from her body. It was saying she was a prostitute. She wasn't. They were mocking her character. They were undermining our corrupt political system. It only led to more tension. This gossip, these images on the walls, when you think about it, this graffiti, this slander, it led to more death and anger than anything else. I've read your gossip. Oh, yeah. I've seen it on your Facebook. All of the graffiti that you have posted about your leaders, no doubt. People who are in the public arena. They may deserve it. Yeah, they may deserve it, and many of them do deserve the statements that we make. But you destroy your own sweet-smelling fragrance. You destroy your own character. As you post these things on Facebook or wherever you do it, your character is dragged through the dirt and manure. People are making judgments about you. They're making judgments about your church when you post things like this kind of graffiti, and everybody, they might agree with you. For sure, take a stand politically. For sure, be bold about taking a stand. But when you undermine and attack the character of a person, and maybe they're not great, they probably are not, you are the one everybody's making a judgment about, and they are making judgments about the church of Jesus Christ. Take a firm stand, but stop killing those people or politicians you don't agree with. I told my church, you're better than that. Say it with me. This is your membership promise. Let's say it together. I will protect the unity of our church and become a peacemaker. Let's say it again now. Think of it. I will protect the unity of our church and become a peacemaker. So let's make a decision today to become uplifters, become bridge builders. Let's insist today, instead of gossiping, mocking, cursing, let's speak words of life. Listen to me. Petronius, a killer. How could I ever forget the words of that veteran who said, "Come," they told me, "a newborn king to see, the Prince of Peace." I've chosen to follow him, a peacemaker. Will you follow me? Will you follow?
Said the night wind to the little land, do you see what I see? Way up in the sky, little land, do you see what I see? A star dancing in the night with a tail as big as a kite, with a tail as big as a kite. Said the little lamb to the shepherd boy, do you hear what I hear? Ringing through the sky, shepherd boy, do you hear what I hear? A song, high above the trees, with a voice as big as the sea, with a voice as big as the sea. Said the shepherd boy to the mighty king, do you know what I know? In your palace, warm mighty king, do you know what I know? A child shivers in the cold. Let us bring him silver and gold. Let us bring him silver and gold. Said the king to the people everywhere, listen to what I say. Pray for peace, people everywhere, listen to what I say. The child, sleeping in the night, he will bring us goodness and light. He will bring us goodness and light.